Your life, your business. Let's start with your number, right? For entrepreneurs out there that are watching, think about your number in your head. How much profit did you make? Maybe you brought in $200,000 in profit this year. Maybe you brought in more, and you already know what happens next. Uncle Sam takes a giant chunk of that before you ever get to decide what to do with it. And it's not because you did anything wrong, because no one ever shows you what's on the other side of the tax code. And this isn't about spending less. It's about redirecting more legally to the people that matter the most for you. As I was sitting in the mastermind with some of the best tax strategists in the country and a lot of really impressive entrepreneurs this past week, I was listening to every kind of business that they were running, whether it was real estate, construction, interior design, healthcare, doctors, coaches. And what I heard was your story over and over again. I heard our story. I heard your story with just different numbers attached to it. The income was never the problem. Again, whether they were making $200,000 in profit a year or making $50 million, as one of the individuals was. Impressive, right? But what I heard was they had the same problems because it's about the thinking. And the 1% just do things differently. So today, it's not about you making more. It's a strategy that's sitting inside your business right now that you've probably never used. So I want to start with a simple question. How old are your kids, or is your kid right now? Because as you're going to see, that number is going to matter more to not only your family, but to your business. This week, like I said, I was at a mastermind earlier this week around tax strategy. And what I really learned, and this is something we talk about all the time, is it's really about understanding the rules of the game. Right? The difference between how the 1% use money and how the 99% use money is drastic. And I saw some of the numbers. I saw that back in 2018, the first trillionaire, that's right, Elon Musk, guess how much he paid in taxes? Take a wild guess. 0. And it's because, was he doing something illegal? Was he utilizing loopholes? No, not at all. But there's a way to play the game. There's a rule book for the game. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about your life and your business. Now, let's imagine a number that you've earned. Let's say, your income for your business, let's say it's $100,000 or $200,000 in profit this year. Maybe it's more. Maybe it's $1 million. Maybe it's $500,000. Maybe it's less. But just think about your number. Have that number in your head. And you already know what happens next. A huge chunk of it goes to Uncle Sam before you ever got to decide what it was for. And it's not because you did anything wrong. It's because no one ever showed you the other side of the tax code. No one ever showed you really how the game works, if you will. Remember, we're looking to understand the rules of the game. And it's not about spending less money. It's about redirecting it, giving it a direction legally to the people who probably matter the most to you. And when I was sitting in that room, again, with tax strategists, entrepreneurs running every kind of business you can think of, they're running real estate, construction, healthcare, therapy, staffing companies. And I kept hearing your story, our story, over and over again. Kept hearing it over and over again. It didn't matter if someone was making $100,000 in profit, $1 million. One of the clients there was actually making $50 million a year. And this resonated with them. And I think you're going to find it extremely valuable to understand how we can keep more of our money. It's not about making more money. It's about how much of our money do we keep. And there's a strategy inside your business right now that you may have heard of, but I bet you could optimize it. Or maybe you're not even using it. And it starts with a simple question. How old are your kids, or is your kid right now? Because that number matters a lot more than you may think. So let's imagine something together. I want you to picture something. And I think all of you are going to recognize it because this might be your situation. Again, you're running a business, doing $200,000 a year or more. You've got kids at home. You're paying all the bills. You're doing everything right on paper. And your kids have never earned a dollar inside your business. They're not on payroll. There's no Roth IRA. There's no policy. There's no system. Nothing. It's not because you're careless. It's not because you don't love your kids. You're busy running the thing that you built. And that's almost, or maybe more challenging than having a child, right? When you have a business, it's like having a baby. And you've been so locked in on growing the business that it never occurs to you that the business itself could be a vehicle that can build your kid's future. And every year that goes by without utilizing this system is a year that we don't get back. So here's a question to pop in the chat to answer. If your business paid your kids a real wage this year, where would that money go right now? Like, where would the money you paid your kids go? Because in a few minutes, I'm going to show you the actual numbers of a system that we're using. I'm going to show you how we're going to actually optimize our system. And I'm going to show you a few different plans that you could utilize. Because remember, all the things we talk about here that the wealthiest, that the 1% are doing are just tools. They're systems. And the more that they're systematized, the more that they're written down, documented, and thought long-term about, the better our system gets. Here's a part you probably never sat down and actually ran the math on. You know, in 2026, and put an I in the chat if you knew this, in 2026, you can pay your kids up to $16,100 a year tax-free to them. Tax-free income to them, which is tax deductible to the business. And then it has to make real sense for the business. Like one of the examples was you can't have a 5-month-old that you're paying them the max for doing quote unquote marketing because you took a couple pictures of your Gerber baby, right? And you want to have your CPA involved in this conversation with you because the exact numbers and the rules, they can shift depending on how your business is structured, right? The type of business you're running. And once that earned income exists, your child can put that money into, or you can put that money for your child into different accounts. This year, 2026, the Roth, you can go up to $7,500 a year is the current limit, right? That's money that's already been taxed going into the policy, and you're not paying taxes to pay your kid on that. Just think about this. If you put that money, $7,500 one time into a Roth, one-time contribution, let alone for 50 years, and let's say it compounds at 8%, 50 years from now, that's roughly $350,000, one contribution. Here's another one. This year, just a couple of days ago, our president in the greatest country in the world, on the 250th birthday of our country, he launched a program called the Trump account. Here's some free money for you if you've got young kids or grandkids born between 2025 and 2028. The government's going to seed $1,000 of their money, like free money, right, to us, into a Trump account. Again, this is another option for what your kids can do when you put them on payroll. So it's a benefit not only for your business to keep more of your money, but now you're also making the decision, how can I intentionally think long-term for my kids? So we talked about a Roth IRA. We talked about the Trump account. So as you're seeing, the 1% think differently, right? And luckily, you're in that 1%, not the 99% that aren't here. You're watching, you're different. And because of that, help spread this message. If you're enjoying the content, if you find this valuable, go ahead and smash the button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the like button so you can get alerted to all the new content. Again, bring more people here if you find this valuable. It means the world to me, my time, my energy, so you have the tools to keep more of your money now and in the future. Let's get back into it. We talked about, another one would be the CISA, right? Which is a educational plan. It's a Coverdale educational plan. I'll go through here in a little bit. And then there's also what we talk about all the time, which is going to be a specially engineered policy. So I guess a question to think about, if you started today, like say you hadn't started, how many years of runway does your child actually have before they're adult? And maybe better question might be, how many have we already let go by before we started? Right? We didn't start Connor immediately. I didn't know about this stuff. You know, he started this system, or we started the system form at 9, right? So just a few years ago. So I want to show you what this actually looks like. And so this is Connor's policy. Hopefully you can see it on the screen. You see it's a little bit jumbled. Well, we started putting into this account at age 10. This year he's on payroll with our business, and we're paying him $10,000 a year. Right? Remember I said the max is $16,100. We didn't think what he was doing kind of warranted, or we could really document and show everything. So where's that $10,000 go? It goes into his specially engineered whole life. And you can see, like when you're looking at the numbers, you can see the guaranteed cash value in the middle. You can see when he's 16, there's going to be $59,000 of cash value sitting there. And he's not going to get a $59,000 car, so don't worry. But if he does, we'll have a system to pay it back. Like right now, he has his loan out for his computer. A lot of you, thank you, have asked me about it. How's it going? It's going awesome. He's got the computer built, it's running, he's using it, and he's creating, right, the value in our business to earn the money to pay the system back over the next 18 months. And we'll start paying the system back this month. That's going to be news to him. He doesn't know that. So, that'll be fun. But he's been doing the work. So he has the money to pay back his system, right? It's his plan for his future. And then you can see by the time he's 21, whether he's going to go to school, whether he's going to do a mission trip, get a trade, start a business, do some kind of personal development. Maybe he'll do like platinum with Tony Robbins for a year. He's going to have $120,000 in the account to help jumpstart his life. Now by 30, when maybe he's thinking about his first home, maybe he's thinking about a wedding, he's got over $260,000. By the time he's my age, by the time he's in his 50s or 50, maybe he's got kids of his own. Maybe he's thinking about their schooling. He's thinking about the same things at a different level than I'm thinking about right now. His policy is approaching $690,000. By the time he's ready to retire, it's got over 1.4 million. And now there's only a little over 300,000 contributed. This is the power of uninterrupted compounding over time. So let's say it just keeps running. By 100, he's 101 years old. By then that should be easy. Because with healthcare, with everything else, with how we're eating intentionally, as long as he's taking care of himself, he'll have over $4.2 million for a system that we started when he was 9 years old. And by that time, we're only putting $4,000 a year into it. Same kid, every single milestone already funded. Because we started early, we thought about what's going to happen in the future, things that I can't even imagine. We said, hey, I know I needed this help, or it would have been a game changer if I had this help when I was young. Like, think about that. If you're sitting there with your parents and you could tell them like, hey, if I had these little opportunities, think of the things that you could have accomplished if you had liquidity, if you had funds and capital to do it. So you can see, I'll go back through, I'm looking over to the right here. I just went through the numbers and I had to cut this all up. So that's why it looks crazy. But you see at age 10, right, there's $5,800 by the end of that year. That's actually 9, but it always shows a year in the future. By the time he's 16, he's got the 58,000 and change, close to 59,000. You kind of see by the time, he's 30, he's contributing 4120 or putting 4120 into it. Now he's got 260,000. By the time he's 50, again, the 683. Are you guys seeing this all now? Thank you, Roberta. By the way, this whole going back and forth, at some time I'll have, maybe Patty will be here to run this for me so I can just talk. And so, like I said, like you get to 101, you put 492,000 in this and it has over $4 million in the account. And again, this is just an exercise of showing you starting earlier is always better. So what are we talking about? To go back to the beginning, we're talking about how do we keep more of our money? How do we do what the 1% are doing and not what the 99% are doing? Now, all of you, everyone watching this, you're already in the 1%, right? It's all here. This is where the 1% live. They live in their thinking. They live in the long range thinking. They live in looking and saying, instead of saying, that's unfair. I can't believe that Elon paid zero in taxes and the guy's a trillionaire. Or how's Jeff Bezos pay himself $84,000 a year when he basically owns the world with Amazon and everything else, right? The ones like SpaceX, Blue Origin, I think, right? They're going to build the first hotels in space. They're sponsoring UCF, like crazy stuff. And so again, like if we really look where this system, where it really lands, like again, we fast forward to year 50 of the system. Maybe Connor's your age, maybe you're a little older, a little younger. But remember that Roth IRA. So we're putting money that we've paid him tax-free into a specially engineered whole life. This is what we're personally doing. Now, an optimization is as we increase Connor's pay, as he adds more value to our company, what other buckets am I going to put the money into? Like, how do I diversify his portfolio? And I thought, okay, we'll probably look at doing a Roth, right? Or maybe we'll take some of this money and we'll put it in a Robinhood account. I don't know. There's all different kinds of things, but how can we start funding something where we have the ability to do it early, where it can have uninterrupted compounding? So then we have a system for his future. Like I mentioned earlier, if we put $7,500 into his system when he's young and it grows at 8%, right, to average in the market. I know averages don't really count, but it grows at 8% for 50 years. That's now sitting at roughly $350,000. The whole life policy like I mentioned at that time, is going to have $1,036,000 in change. And the CISA, if he does a CISA, that's an education account that we could have used along the way. It's got $34,000 that are tax-free dollars that he can use while he's growing up. And it's just one change. It's just paying your kid correctly and putting that money to work in more than one place. It's the same system. Remember, the only thing we're changing is where does the money go first? And are we following the rules? Like, are we working with a tax strategist and practitioner like myself that's going to be able to help you put these two things together? Not only one thing, it's a team. And so all of you here, if you're the kind of person that runs the numbers, and I know what you might be thinking, this is something I was thinking as I was putting this together, right? I put this together on my 6-hour drive back this week. And I thought, well, if I'm talking to someone who just looks at numbers, they're going to say, Jason, why would you put something that's just earning 4% internal rate of return tax-free when our Roth that's also tax-free is averaging 8%? Anybody think of that? And so when you look, just think about the Roth is for your kids' future. It's for their future self, right? Their 65-year-old version. The policy is for every version of your kid between now and then. Again, the first computer, first vehicle, college or a business, first home, wedding day, his kids. Every time he uses it, he learns to pay himself back. Instead of paying a bank, instead of paying interest to someone else, the money stays in our family. And that's the difference between having the money only working once at the very end and the money working for him his entire life. So what we're potentially giving up some of that growth, and this is a conversation I have many times. I still don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. But I believe like our need for capital in our life, like the one guarantee we have has changed. So I believe that the need for capital is going to come up more often than needing the money in the future, right? Our present self always has needs. And so if there are needs that are aligned with our vision, I want to make sure that I'm setting up my family for success at the age that they're at today. So today, if you started your kids, what are we looking at down the road for them at every one of these ages? And earlier, right, I was talking about how this wasn't extra money just sitting around. This was real wages for real work run through a real system. And almost no one sets this up correctly. Almost everyone in the room had some version of this, including myself, but there's always little tweaks that you can make it better. So either you can make your system you already have better, or if you don't have a system, again, when's a better time than now to have one? And the question just becomes like, how many years do you let this go by before your kids are starting? And one thing, just add to this. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but I want to circle back to it. As I was sitting there listening to these tax strategists, and they're certified CPAs, but that's not what's impressive. There's tons of certified CPAs. And if you went to 5 different CPAs, and you guys probably have experienced this, especially business owners, you know that you could give 5 people your numbers, and they're going to come back with 5 different amounts that you owe. So when you put your kids on payroll, you want to make sure you're documenting things correctly. That's what I was most impressed with, that everything had a reason for being done. And if it ever gets audited, if everything comes up, again, not giving tax advice, not my role for all of you, but when you know that you're documenting it correctly, when you pay your kid, you write it down what you paid them for. You actually move the money into their account. And it's not just a journal entry. It's the dollars need to leave your business account and land in theirs every time. So maybe you've known about paying your kids for a while. Maybe you've even brought it up with your CPA once and it's never been followed up on. Maybe it didn't feel like the right time. And every time, what actually happens when you're waiting is our kids get a year older. More money goes to Uncle Sam than needed to. The compounding years before their retirement gets shorter. And that tax-free wage window, it disappears completely. You can't go back and use last year's threshold. You can't go back and backdate a lot of the stuff. Some stuff they can review and go back a few years, backdate stuff. But if it's not set up, if it's not documented correctly, it might actually find more problems than solutions. And so as your business, as you keep getting better at what you do, at solving problems for other people, as you keep making more money, you're going to get taxed at the highest rate it's ever going to be taxed at. Instead of moving it through to your kid at a much lower rate, again, this is not exotic. This is not something that is not known. I mean, this is just using the playbook, using the 7,700 page IRS guide, right? It's a guide. That's all it is. It's not a loophole creator. It's a guide. It's about running dollars you've already generated through a system in a smarter way before those dollars and those years are gone. And as I was watching the entrepreneurs, as I'm talking to you, as I'm thinking about our situation, the entrepreneur who sits down and waits till things settle down or is just so focused on getting through this quarter or the next quarter because some big project, they're still going to be saying the same thing when their kids turn 18 and they age out. And that's kind of a question for anyone here is like, how many years has your kid, or maybe you have grandkids and your kids have a business, how many years has income been left sitting on the table? What's really stopping you, or what's really keeping you from putting this system in place for you? Is it the paperwork? Is it not knowing the system? Is it a document? Is it a conversation you need to have with a tax strategist? Is it a conversation with myself helping you think through how you can set something up that works for every year of their life? And again, that's a conversation. It's not a reason to stop. It's not knowing where to start, but that's a great thing. We're always going to meet you exactly where you're at. Again, what do we cover today? Your life, your business, your numbers. One conversation. We look at your business and what your kids realistically could be paid for real work that they do in your business. Tax-free money, tax advantages to your business. And we look at how you can document it correctly so that holds up. And then we have to see, where do those dollars go? Does it go to an IBC account, a specially engineered policy? Does it go to a Roth IRA, a CISA account, a Trump account, if it applies? Again, this isn't about opening one or all of these accounts. It's really looking strategically and deciding whether your business only supports you or whether you're going to build a system that starts with your kids ahead of where you started. Same business you already have. You're not working harder. You're not doing more. You're just going to keep more of what you make while simultaneously setting your kids up for success. So if this resonated with you, go ahead and scan the QR code or click on my link below and schedule a call with me. And remember, I'm not giving tax advice. I'm not giving financial advice. I'm here just to meet you where you're at financially and make sure that you have the tools to set up yourself for success, keep more of the money you're already making, and set up your kids for their future. So if you're appreciating the content, if this resonated with you, let's help others hear about this. All right? It took me 6 hours of driving both ways to go and learn this information this past week and bring this to you. And then what I know, like, and actually practice is a specially engineered policy. So if this resonated with you, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell, because it just might change colors for you. And I'm gonna see all of you in this next video right here. Again, smash, like, subscribe, be blessed. I'll see you in the next video here.